everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand. It is the big one. It is Ruben Amorim's first Manchester derby, and we are on the other side of Manchester today at the Etihad. Manchester United and Ruben Amorim have hopes of going and getting 3 points off City. And is there any better time to play Manchester City than today? We have got a packed build-up show for you guys. We've got team news coming in. We've got Kev ringing in a little bit later. We've got some stats to bring in. We've got loads of different segments. And I'm also joined, fresh back from Spain, Ricky. Glad to have you on. You excited for the derby? Do you have any hope? Do you have any optimism behind you?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of optimism. Yeah, obviously it's going to be a tough game. City seems to be going through a rough patch when you look at the results. What is it? 1 win in 10 games, which is absolutely astonishing for them, by the way.
Crazy, isn't it?
Can't get made around it. But what I will say, I don't often watch them. I've said that on these shows many, many times. I just get dead jealous when I watch them, the sort of football that they can play. But I do watch them occasionally if I think they've got a game on that they might lose. So I watched them play Juventus on Tuesday night. I watched the full game, and they did get beat. They got beat 2-0. But I've got to say this, they look just as good as ever. The way they knocked the ball about and dragged Juventus all the way around the pitch. I don't know what's been going on. I've not watched many of these 10 games where they've only got 1 win. I don't know if they've been playing as well as that in those games, but they were absolutely superb against Juventus. And if they play like that, even though they lost, but if they play like that today, we've got our work cut out. Well,
I've seen a lot of Manchester United fans going into this game with some confidence. And the one thing I will say is it's not the Manchester City side I have feared in the past. Unfortunately, we are also in a position where we're not doing very well either. And people have got to understand that in this terrible run of games that Manchester City have had, and it is terrible by their standards, Nottingham Forest at home, they beat them 3-0. We got beat by Nottingham Forest at home. So, did we get beat or did we draw?
We got beat.
We got beat. Yeah, we got beat.
That's the only team that they've beaten in 10 games, and then they came to Old Trafford and won.
So, you've got to put that into some perspective. Manchester United have only won 1 away Premier League game so far this season, and that was Southampton, who were definitely going down. Manchester United's away form is terrible. So yeah, Manchester City are in a vulnerable position. Manchester United should go there and try and expose it. And there's certain ways I feel like we could get a result today. I don't think a result is off the table, where previously I've gone into a Manchester derby and I thought it is going to take a miracle for us to get something. I think we can get a result if we play in the right way, we set up the team in the right way. But I think people getting carried away with City's downfall, obviously it's fantastic to see as a United fan, and long may it continue, but we're not exactly in a strong position to capitalise on it. But I hope we do.
I'd love us to win. I'd love us to beat them. Like I said, I've just said, I watched them the other night. They played brilliantly. We got our work cut out. I hope we can. When they say take advantage, you're talking about the results and saying they're not in a great run and maybe we should be able to take advantage. But from what I saw the other night, there's not a lot to be able to take advantage of. We're going to have to be right on our toes and at our very best, I think, to get something out of it.
Yes, I think we are. I mean, in terms of the Arsenal game, Ricky, that was the first big six side that Amorim's faced away from home.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought we were doing really well. I was very happy with the first half, to be honest. Even though we didn't create many chances, thought we kept Arsenal at arm's length, thought we did fantastically well in that first half to maintain the possession that we did and keep them at arm's length. Second half, unfortunately, goals change games. They get a corner, and we know what they're like off corners, and they end up winning the game 2-0. But do you think Amorim will be quite pleased, because he always talks performances, not results, with that first half, and maybe try and create something similar at the Etihad?
Yeah, I'm sure he's bound to. I'm sure he's going to think to himself, if we can, like we got in 0-0 at half time, didn't we, in that game, without Arsenal creating too many chances. To be honest, as good as Arsenal are, I don't think they're quite as good as City are at moving the ball around and getting into. They've got some great players. I was going to say getting into dangerous positions. Maybe I shouldn't say that. They've got some fantastic players. Saka's unbelievable. They've got some good players. But yeah, we did great at Arsenal, really. For most of the game, really, they didn't create chances in open play. 2 set-piece goals, 2 corners on diddles, really. And I think he will set himself out today to be difficult to beat. And I think if you could say to him now, the same as it was at the Emirates, it'll be 0-0 at half-time, I think he'd take that.
One thing I will say about the game today, just looking at a bit of statistics as well, is I don't want to put a downer on it because I am excited, and I think today for me it's of course I want to win. I always want to win these sort of games, but it's about performance. It really is about performance and how we approach this game at the Etihad. But if you're looking at a few stats to bring in, Manchester City's home form, despite all of the turbulence they've been through, 5 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss in the Premier League. You know, Manchester United have only won 1 away game, that was against Southampton. So they have that in their favour. And but on the other hand, Manchester City have conceded more goals than Man United have this season, which is mad to think.
Unheard of.
It is unheard of. So you can get at their defence with all the injuries and the issues that they've had there, Ricky, can't you?
Yeah, they've got quite a few injury problems at the back, haven't they? I did read somewhere that they've only got 3 fit defenders. But I think when the team news comes out, we'll see if all that's completely true, won't we?
We will. I mean, speaking of team news, get your super chats in. Anything you want to get in the chat, any comments or anything, any polls you want us to run, get them in. Also, everyone, if you're just tuning in, make sure you hit a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button because we are just under or just around 15,000 off 2 million.
Wow.
Which is absolutely incredible.
Incredible.
I mean, I know I was the one that made that happen. I'm joking. I'm joking. But I know, you know, loads of people, you know, Mark's watch-alongs and everything, but everyone at the United Stand would absolutely love to get to 2 million. So make sure you get them comments in and get the interaction going. Subscribe to the channel because that would just be an incredible achievement. And you know, I know everyone's contributed and everyone deserves credit, but from Mark starting at nothing to get to 2 million. Goldbridge, it's just incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely astonishing. Astonishing.
Yeah, so make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'll say it for Mark if he hasn't yet, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. But speaking of the leaked team news, we don't know how true this is. We just know that Samuel Luckhurst from the MEN did put out a team last night that he had heard was the leaked lineup. Nothing's 100% confirmed, but obviously if there's a team out there that does look like it's very likely true, to be honest with you. If you actually look at the starting 11 and you try and...
The more and more people that talk about it, the more and more true it sounds.
Yeah, it sounds true. Like, 1, you know, based off form, it looks like it'd be true. 2, based off the way Ruben Amorim shuffles his team sometimes, you'd think it's true. Harry Maguire didn't play midweek where you thought he would, and, you know, now he's in the starting 11, which you look at the way we're going to defend against Manchester City, I think actually makes perfect sense. Harry Maguire, I think, has the skill set and the attributes to benefit us in this game. And I know people might disagree, but I actually think in this sort of game he could do a really good job for us. I mean, the leaked lineup, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen it yet already, is Onana in goal, Maguire in the centre of defence, Martinez on the left-hand side, De Ligt on the right-hand side, wing-backs of Dalot and Mazraoui, a midfield 2 of Ugarte and Bruno Fernandes, the 2 10s as Mason Mount and Ahmad, and then the striker as Rasmus Højlund. Ricky, what do you make of that team?
It sounds like such a sensible team that I'm hoping it's right, and I'd have my money on it being correct as well. You know, I'm fed up of seeing Rashford and Garnacho as 10s, or either one of them as 10s. They're just never ever going to be number 10s if you're not going to play with wing. To me, we've got better wingers anyway, or we've let better wingers go as well. But to me, Garnacho and Rashford, if anything, the wingers, they're not number 10s, and I just think if that lineup is correct, I think it'll be better with Ahmad and Mount as the 2 10s than it would be with Rashford and Garnacho. That's the main things. Also, obviously, Ahmad, if he is playing at 10, that leaves that space on the wide right for that to be either Dalot or Mazraoui, and obviously one of them playing on the left as well. I think that'll be stronger. Wouldn't surprise me one bit if he wants his 2 wing backs to be actual full backs today. You know, City are going to have most of the ball. We're going to be defending for our lives at times. So I'm pretty sure he's going to want to have 2 full backs as his wing backs. In other words, just like at Arsenal, really, we'll be playing with a back 5 to start with. At Arsenal, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Malacia and Dalot, wasn't it, in the first half, who were the wing backs. So we were playing with a back 5 in that game. And as I say, up until half time, it did the trick.
Yeah, I mean, when I seen that team, I was very happy with it. I'm going to be honest, very happy with it, because I think it's Amorim rewarding performance. Mason Mount came off the bench and made an impact after we were terrible in that first half. I thought Ahmad looked better when he was actually playing with Mount and Højlund. I thought he looked better. I think Ahmad, first half, just didn't have his best game. But you got, like you say, you're going to look better when you're playing with better players. Højlund comes on and Mount comes on, Ahmad's ticking. That front three I thought worked really well, so I can understand that. I mean, we were only speaking recently on the United stand how we might be in a position where Rashford and Garnacho aren't playing in this team on a regular basis, which is crazy to think about it because there were two players that were consistently in the starting 11 under Erik ten Hag. So get your comments in about that. I know a lot of people have maybe a raised eyebrow at Bruno Fernandes playing deeper in this sort of game. Manchester City away, it's a big ask, but like you said, it's probably going to be more like a back five in a lot of times in this game. Obviously they'll push forward, but I think if you've got Dalot and Mazraoui there, plus your three centre-backs, you can afford to have Bruno Fernandes in that pivot. Of course, he's got to be disciplined. Of course, he's got to be switched on in this game, and I do worry about him a little bit in tracking runners. But I think Amorim's realised we don't really have anyone who can transition the ball from back to front, and he wants to have someone a bit deeper who can dictate the play, and that is Bruno Fernandes. Ugarte's energy does, and the way he can track runners and the way he gets about the pitch does benefit Bruno in that sense. So I think it's getting your best players into the starting 11. I think it's a very good team. The only thing I think people maybe will be thinking is where's Mainoo? I also was shocked when I didn't see Mainoo in there.
Don't forget we are talking about a leaked lineup here.
We're not 100% sure, but this is the talk of the Leeds lineup.
Yeah.
But if it is true, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think Mainoo will eventually get into this 11. He might well start today. We don't know if this lineup's true. But if he isn't in there, and it is Bruno and Ugarte, I am starting to think that maybe Amorim doesn't fancy Mainoo that much, because you would play him in a game like this if you really did like him. Is that concerning? A little bit. But I think Amorim massively values intensity and legs and work rate. And don't get me wrong, Mainoo's work rate is top drawer. But in terms of his running and getting about the pitch, it's not his strongest attribute. Christian Eriksen's fantastic on the ball, but he's not seen a minute since the first game. And he's got left out the squad because Ruben Amorim massively values intensity and energy levels. Mainoo is fantastic on the ball. I think one of our best players, if not our best player on the ball. But intensity and getting about the pitch isn't his strongest suit. So how Amorim works with that and how Mainoo develops, remember, he's still young. He's still massively young. I think he'll win Amorim over in time. But if that is true, I do think the Mainoo thing is a little bit interesting.
It's interesting, love, but the phrase that I must say it every single week on here, you can only play 11. Ugarte's got to play. You've got your 2 10s. I've got nothing against. I mean, Ahmad's been our best player. He's got to be in. If you want to play with 2 full backs as your wing backs, then obviously Ahmad's not going to get as one of the wing back roles. He's been absolutely fantastic all season. He's got to play as one of the 10s. Mason Mount, I think he's done really well as a 10, whether he started, which he's only done once or twice, but whether he comes on as a sub, I think it's high time for Mason Mount to get a game. So, it's one thing saying, does he not fancy this player? But it's another thing saying, where do you can't fit everybody in your lineup. It doesn't have to be that you don't particularly fancy somebody. You've got to, you can't find space for 12 players. You can only find space for 11 players. And the one player to me, and you'll argue till the cows come home about this, but of all those players in that team, the one player whose place Mainoo should take is Bruno Fernandes for me. I knew you say no, but he can't take Ugarte's place, can he? He can't take Ahmad's place, can he? And
surely, play as a 10.
Yeah, but what, in place of Ahmad? Not for me. Not for me.
In place of Mount, potentially.
Perhaps, yeah, so there you go. So, but there's my point. Here's my point. For him to get into this team, he's going to have to dislodge Mason Mount or Bruno Fernandes, and you can only play 11.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't fancy him. He might think he's one of the best players in the country and still not be able to fit him in his team today.
I get that. I do think it's strange that he wasn't used at all midweek and he isn't starting today, if it is true.
That's a fair shot.
I find that a bit strange. Obviously, I know you can only play 11, but if Mainoo isn't in the lineup today, he's picking Mount over him, he's picking Ahmad over him, and he's picking Bruno over him. They're the 3 players he could replace, because like you said, Ugarte does have to play. So that's 3 players he thinks are better than him. It is, if he's playing them. And a lot of people say, well, Bruno has to play, Bruno has to play. He doesn't have to play. Amorim's picking him because he wants to, because, like I've said, I think we lack leadership. Bruno is a leader. He's a captain. And I'm sorry, no matter what anybody tells me, including Ricky, he has to play. I've seen Manchester United without Bruno, and I've seen them with Bruno.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
No, the odd
Ricky,
game is not a run of games, darling. You've not seen a run of games without Bruno Fernandes
We wouldn't
playing.
have won the match.
You even mentioned to me the other day that he didn't play the last 15 minutes. What's 15 minutes to go off? What is 15 minutes to go off?
I've seen it. Honestly, I can't. I need to actually go back and calculate. But I remember.
What about the games that he has played where we've lost 7-0 and we've lost 6-1 and we've lost 5-0?
I remember when we went to Aston Villa away and he wasn't available because he was suspended, and we looked absolute dross. We didn't create anything. I think we lost 3-0.
Just like when we got beat 4-0 at Brentford and when we got beat 4-0 at Brighton. Why bring up the games that he didn't play in where we didn't play well when we've played absolutely appallingly?
Will you admit one thing?
In plenty of games that he's played in. Have we played appallingly in plenty of games that he's played in? Yes or no?
Yes, but I also...
Yes or no?
Yes, yes. But I think he's the best out of quite a poor bunch of players, to be honest with you. Like, I do think there is certain players there where I see a future with, and I think they can be something. But what I'm saying is, I think he's the best that we have. Is my philosophy. I think
he's our best player, is that what you're saying?
I mean, yeah, I would say I think he's Manchester United's best player.
Wow.
But... what I would
no wonder we're struggling.
This is what I mean. This is what I mean, Ricky. What I would also say is maybe like best player is a most creative player, match winner, can get you something from a game. We lack so much creativity. And I think what Bruno Fernandes does, he gives you a chance.
Did you see me?
He gives you a chance in the final third.
Did you see my Instagram?
Can you just let me finish one second? The last thing I would say on that is, I'm not saying Bruno Fernandes is a be-all and end-all, even though I do very highly rate him. But like you said, if he's our best player, then help us. We should have players on his level or better surrounding him, is what I'm trying to say. I think you've got to look at the rest of the team before you go and look at Bruno, is what I would say. And last thing, will you at least admit this? We wouldn't have won that game if it wasn't for him. Because again, he provides that creativity with that pass through to Højlund. Højlund does fantastic, do not get me wrong. But it's always him that's pulling the strings. Come on.
What about Ahmad?
Him and Ahmad.
Ahmad's been pulling the strings all season.
Actually, you know what?
Ahmad's been absolutely fantastic.
Now Ahmad is coming to the team. Yeah. Him and Ahmad are our 2 best creative players.
Ahmad's the best.
At this moment.
By some distance.
Right now, yeah. Ahmad's playing better right now.
Some distance, yeah.
Right now, Ahmad's playing better.
So we need more players who are up at Ahmad's level.
Him and Bruno. I think we need more players that... Well, it's... Bruno and Ahmad play fantastic together when they're linking up because they're on the same wavelength. I know you won't agree with me, but... Yeah. Anyway, what did you want to say?
Did you see me Instagram during the week about Bernardo Silva? Check it out on Rick the Red UK.
I watched most of them, but I didn't see the Bernardo Silva one. So,
creativity. Creativity is a team thing. And it's interesting, especially with it being a derby day today. So creativity is a team thing. It's not an individual thing. It's not an individual sport. Bernardo Silva, when I see Bernardo Silva play, he looks absolutely fantastic. He moves the ball quickly, he runs well with the ball, he drops a shoulder, he goes past a man like he's not there. I think Bernardo Silva is one of the best midfield players in the country, and his, what he's won in the last few years, backs that up. He's a regular starter. Obviously, he gets rested occasionally. He's a regular starter. He's won four league titles. He's won a European Cup, 1 or 2 League Cups, 1 or 2 FA Cups. Just winning trophies all the time. And Bernardo Silva, to me, when I watch the eye test, just when I watch him play, I can see that he's a creative player. He's an absolutely wonderful player to watch, and he shifts the ball around quickly. He understands that he needs to know where to pass it to before he even gets it. He's a wonderful footballer. Now, in the 4 seasons that City have won the league, the last 4 seasons, he got 4 assists one season. He got 5 assists another season. he got 6 assists another season. He was averaging 5 assists per season. Last season, he got 9 assists. That's taking his average up to 6. So he's getting 6 assists a season, playing for the best team who are scoring 90-odd goals most seasons, and he's only getting 4, 5 or 6 assists. Do you think Pep Guardiola is interested in how many assists he's getting? Do you think he's worried about how many assists he's got? Do you think he'd like to replace him with a player who's going to try and get more assists?
No, but I think Manchester City and Manchester United are 2 completely different entities and 2 completely different teams.
Yeah, but is that not where we're trying to get to?
Yeah, but Manchester City have had the best manager in the world for a number of years. They've got the best player in the world, best players in the world, best squad in the world. I mean, they've just had a Ballon d'Or winner in Rodri, and now he's out the team. I mean, look at them, that's how important he is. Their squad is absolutely top tier. So anybody coming into that, 1, obviously you're going to share the workload, and 2, you're playing with other top class players. What I'm trying to say is Bruno Fernandes isn't playing with other top class players. He's playing with not top class players. I was having this conversation with my brother actually, and we'll get into it in a bit. And I've gone completely off topic, but that's the whole point of these shows and football debates. We got on a walk yesterday, and we were doing like a Man City United combined 11 based on form, and right now injuries and form. And he said, "Beth, would you have Bruno in or Foden?" And I said, "I'd have Bruno in." And he went, "I bet Ricky wouldn't." I said, "No, he wouldn't." I said, "He'd have Foden." But I said, based on form and what Foden is doing, even though he was Player of the Year last year, who would I rather have in my team as of now? I'd rather have Bruno. And people absolutely laugh their heads off and say I don't know anything about football in the comments, and that's fine, do that. But what I'm trying to say is if you picked up Bruno Fernandes and put him in City's team, I think they would still play well. I think he'd contribute. I think he'd be a top player for them. If you picked up Foden and put him in United's team, yeah, okay. I still think he'd be a good player, but he wouldn't provide what Bruno provides. Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, love, but I don't agree. I think this is what I'm trying to explain to you. You're going off sort of saying, he's playing with other good players. Of course he's playing with other good players, but you need players who are going to facilitate the team playing well, a team being creative. You don't need individuals trying to be creative. You're saying if you picked up Bruno and put him in City's team, I'll tell you what I compared it to.
You'd have a lot more respect, I tell you that.
Because goal scoring and let's be honest, goal scoring and creativity are linked, and people talk about being linked. Like City signed Haaland, right? Last season he scored, I think it was 36 league goals he got last season. He scored 27 league goals in his first season. The season before that, before they signed him, City scored more goals in the league than they have in any of the 2. Not by many, but people would think that they're going to score more. But they actually scored more goals in the season before they signed him than they did in the 2 seasons since he's played for them. If you look at Harry Kane, most Spurs fans would have thought Spurs are going to stop scoring goals once they've lost Harry Kane, and Harry Kane's a creative player as well as a goal scorer. So last season, Spurs scored more goals last season than they did in the past 2 seasons with Harry Kane playing. And at the moment, this season, they're still averaging just over 2 goals a game, which is more than what they were scoring with Harry Kane playing. Don't worry about individual players and what their stats are and who's going to score the goals or who's not going to score the goals or who's going to create the goals. And if you look at that and sort of see and realise that Spurs are not scoring any less without Harry Kane and City are not scoring any more with Haaland, the same applies if you put Bruno in that team. It doesn't mean it's going to be any better. They're not going to score any more goals. And they will just because they're scoring that many, they'll probably score a few less. They just probably would, just like Spurs have done, even though Harry Kane's gone. So don't worry about individuals getting assists. Put Bruno into City's team and they'll slip a little bit. I know I can't prove it, but I promise you faithfully, you need that player who's going to keep moving it. Pep, when Pep looks at Bernardo Silva, in one of the seasons, he got 4 assists. To listen to how you speak about Bruno, you would think that Pep would say, midfield player, attacking midfield player, 4 assists. Get rid of him, sell him. What's he worth?
No, I agree with you.
What's he worth?
No, I agree with you. I don't think it has to be one end of the spectrum or the other. For example, I think Jack Grealish, I know a lot of people laugh, I think he's a top player.
He's a fantastic player.
His stats aren't good.
He's not scored a goal. I've read the other day he's not scored a goal for 12 months.
But he's an absolute top player in my opinion.
He'll probably score today, no doubt.
In my opinion.
He's absolutely fantastic.
I think Garnacho's stats are better than Ahmad's this season, but I think Ahmad's a better player.
Yeah.
Like, I get that. It's not one end of the spectrum or the other, but it's not just Bruno's stats is why I like him. I think his attributes you need in this team, his creativity, and that doesn't have to be a goal or an assist, but I do think his creativity is an attribute. What he can do on the ball is an attribute. But he is massively frustrating, and this season hasn't been his best season by far. But I think you can meet somewhere in the middle on it. But I do completely get what you're saying, and I do respect your opinion on that. Should we agree to
Let's move on.
Should we agree to move on?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing stuff. Thank you everyone for all your comments. Comments are going mad. I've got loads to talk about. Some Rashford stuff that I want to bring in a second as well. Super chats. Chris Andromeda says, Beth and Ricky, good morning from the USA. Who do you both feel is Amorim's best player?
Amorim's best player? Wow, in other words, our best player. I'd have to say Ahmad at the moment.
In the moment, you'd have to say Ahmad. I'd agree with that. Yeah. Vinny Red
Mazraoui behind it.
Mazraoui, yeah, and Mazraoui. Vinny Red 1, I hope Dalot doesn't play and Bruno is not in the pivots. Paul Hume says, the elite team is good defensively, but is it too defensive to hurt City? You need to hit them on the break.
Don't worry about who asked that question.
Paul,
don't worry one little bit about that. We need to go into this game determined to keep a clean sheet. That's what if that's the correct lineup. That's why he's got 2 full-backs as his wing-backs. It's why he's got 3 centre-backs. Don't worry about hurting them. Let's worry about stopping them. If we stop them, all we've got to do is nick 1 goal. That's all we've got to do. It can come from anywhere. Don't worry about who's going to hurt them.
Goldio says, got to ask my standard question here. Ricky, any more holidays coming up, mate, or is it Christmas in the UK this year? Also, Ricky's thoughts on Xerxes.
It was a struggle to enjoy his game the other night, to be fair. I mean, I do like the way he controls it and passes it sometimes, but then the other night he's so off it, I just don't get it. I can't work him out. I just hope that he can start being more consistent. The way he plays, here's the answer. The way he plays when he plays well, I think there's a player in there. I just hope he can do it more often and more consistently.
Got Nick James saying Mainoo played loads, easing back into the intensity. Yeah, that's a good super chat. Hardeek says, Ricky, Bruno has been better under Amorim. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think he has. I think he's looked after the ball a little bit. Well, I've seen stats saying that he's only losing it half as much of the time that he was losing it before, so fingers crossed that keeps going in the right direction.
We've got Anil Setkar saying, Bruno is the most creative player. I'm giving the ball away cheaply again and again. Sanil Dewan says, I don't like us playing with 5 defenders. I don't think it'll work in the Premier League in the long run. The current squad is not suitable for this 3-5-2. Well, Sanil, you're going to have to get used to it because Amorim's not going anywhere and he's 100% going to keep playing it. Parker says, M. Parker, thank you for your super chat. Lamin says, Bruno hits long balls because we have basic wingers. He says, the key word is understanding Beth and Ricky. All players have to have the same IQ to play coherently. Andres Gomez says, we play worse without Bruno, but it's not because he's a jack of all trades. He's not world class in any position, but he covers for the gaps of our other players have in their game.
Wow.
We were better. If we were better, we wouldn't need him, is the end of that super chat. Interesting stuff from everybody coming in. Keep your comments coming. I mean, Ricky, there's a rumour that Rashford isn't in the squad coming out from Samuel Luckhurst here. There's a rumour that Rashford isn't in the squad. What would you make of that if he isn't in there? I'm just trying to get more info on it.
Well, if it's true, it's not a lot really for me to make of it. I don't know he's not been. Look, I'm not his biggest fan. Anybody who's been watching this show for years or for any length of time, you'll know that I'm not one of Rashford's biggest fans. I don't think he's worth a place in the team. I don't really think he's worth a place in the squad. I really don't. But whether there'd be a different reason for him to be left out, I don't know. But this manager's a new manager. It wouldn't surprise me if the new manager is looking at him and scratching his head and thinking, how is this player playing for Manchester United? Which is what I've been saying for 5 or 6 years. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if he's absolutely astonished. He's that poor.
I mean, I don't know if the club will say it's injury, but I would doubt.
They can't. Look, they can't. there's been rumours around over the years, or people have suggested, and it's also been suggested about Bruno as well, but let's not go back down the Bruno avenue, that it's in the contract, him and Rashford and Bruno, that when they're fit they have to play. I'm not wearing that. I'm not wearing it one little bit. But what I will accept, if the club take the manager to one side and just say, I'm talking about Rashford here, by the way, love, that is such a valuable asset that they don't want his value to decline dramatically. You know, I don't know what they'd expect to get for him if they sold him. Probably a couple of years ago, when he scored 30 goals, if they'd have sold him at the end of that season, some idiot somewhere probably would have given you 80 million quid for him, and he wasn't any good then, even though he was scoring goals. So he probably would have got 80, 90 million quid for him. Now, they'd probably bite your hand off for 35 million quid. But if the manager completely bombs him out and doesn't play him ever and don't even bring him off the bench, which to me is what I would do, because he doesn't affect the team. We've got better players to play. We've also got better players to come off the bench. But they don't want his value to just plummet to whatever it might plummet to, 3, 4, 5, 6 million quid. When at the minute, if they sold him tomorrow, they'd probably get 35 million quid for him. They can't just, the manager cannot just bomb him out. It can't be allowed.
I mean, for me, it's really difficult on Marcus Rashford.
It's difficult for the manager.
It is difficult for the manager. Obviously, he's your highest paid player and he's underperforming. I mean, it's to the point, genuinely, where midweek, by the way, I don't think anybody played well in that first half. So you can't just pin it all on one player. The majority of the team was seriously poor in the first half. Rashford, for me, did actually stand out as being ultra poor, especially by, you are always going to be looked at in greater detail when you are the highest paid player. You're wearing the number 10. People are going to look at that. But it was to the point where, genuinely, midweek, I was genuinely concerned about him. I was like, he just didn't seem like he was in it at all. And I know you'll say, Beth, he's just never been good enough. But I just thought, he's better than that. I know he's better than that. So I was a little bit concerned, honestly, about him. And it's one of them. I don't want to keep going in because it's a tough one, really. But at this moment in time, it's not good enough. And if he's not part of the squad, why is that? There's so many different reasons it could be. The
manager will get asked, but whether we can believe his answer.
If they say it's injury, I don't believe it. It's one of them. But
it's a right coincidence if he has suddenly got an injury in training when he's been playing so terribly and deserves to be dropped anyway. It's too coincidental, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see if he is dropped. Obviously, it's just rumours as for now. I mean, all I'm going to say is, look, he's put a lot on the line. He's put a Leeds lineup out, and now he said Rashford's not in the squad. I mean, for his sake, I hope he's right.
Yeah.
Obviously, because, if you say stuff like that, then it's not true.
He's brave enough to put that up there. He must trust his source, obviously.
He must trust his source. I wonder who his source might be.
I wonder.
Would be interesting to know. That's one. Got some more super chats in. Karen Mater says, hi Beth, hi Ricky. On Bruno, there is no right or wrong at this moment. I agree with both of your opinions on him, but I tend to lean more towards Beth's opinion. Bruno, with good players around him, can be really brilliant. SB1 says, thank you, by the way, for backing me up. SB1 says, would be happy with City not scoring today. Nothing wrong with a defensive team. Nigel says, we need to be decisive when we get chance. The players have a tendency to shoot from ridiculous angles, losing possession in the process. We give up possession too easily. Cole says, agree Beth, we're about moments due to plays we have. Unfortunately, it's what we have to rely on. Bruno would have to work on retention, but his quality would be more consistent as City's players are organised and available. Howder88 says, a question for Ricky. Do you miss Fred, Evans, Dan James and Eriksen in the starting lineup?
Fred, no. Dan James, yeah. Who else? Eriksen. Evans, yes. Eriksen, probably yes.
Tushar Bilewal says, I don't know how you don't know this, but Rashford has stopped running full tilt since he hurt his back 3 to 4 years ago, and it has killed his game. He's just trying to prolong his career, and United know. I don't know how true that one is, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of speculation on this. Bariano says, I'm not actually going to read that out because I don't know what you're talking about. Nick James, Rashi is the poster boy, not United representation. And we have Lake on the Moon says, Ricky's hate for Bruno is disgusting, Ricky.
Oh my goodness.
Even Alanga still thanks Bruno for his development. Not liking him as a player is one thing, but he should not be disrespected. He's a great servant to the club. I don't think you've disrespected him as a person. You just don't rate him as a player, do you, Ricky?
No.
But everyone has different opinions. I mean, let me just, 1 second, just check in this one thing here before I get into it. I've got some stats to bring in to the show as well. But Ricky, at the Etihad today, Ruben Amorim's game plan, what would you be setting up the team like in terms of team shape, how to approach the game, in-game management? What would be your game plan?
The game plan would be certainly to try and keep it tight and try and keep a clean sheet up. And as I said earlier, certainly try and get to half time at 0-0. Obviously, if you can get a goal in the first half on the break, fantastic. If and when we will get opportunities to actually play football in their half of the field, it will happen at some stage. So we need to. This is important as well, and this brings us back to Bruno, and he has been better at it this season. When we do get a chance to keep the ball and pass it around, we need to be more patient and keep it well and take time out of the game. You're taking time out of the game, you're making them run a little bit more. We need to get the ball into their final third and really be patient and only try that killer ball when it's actually there to be played rather than a really difficult one that's not really on. We just need to look after the ball better for loads of different reasons, and we will get an opportunity to do that. We will have 2 or 3 spells in the first half where we've got the ball in their half for a minute or so. We need to elongate those times, more of them and longer periods.
I like it, Ricky. I like it. I would love to replicate what we did the first half against Arsenal. I know people might be like, we didn't create many chances, but, we've got to understand where we are at this moment in time. One thing I will say, though, and, this will come back to bite me probably, but if we can't get a goal against our Man City defence, come on. City have been leaking goals for fun. We have got to be able to score against them. We've got to get a goal. Might we concede? I expect us to. I'm going to be honest. I do expect us to concede. I think City have too much quality, especially at home. But we have to score. And if we don't score, questions please need to be asked, because our attack needs to score a goal against that Man City defence, I've got to say.
I hope you're right. I hope we can get a goal.
I think if the front three is Ahmad, Mount and Højlund, we've got a chance.
Ahmad's the most dangerous.
Definitely think we've got a chance. Be interesting to see how Pep Guardiola sets up. I can't wait to see their team. I can't wait to see our squad. I want to see if Rashford's in the squad. I want to see how it's all lining up.
See if Bernardo Silva's in it, or if he's sold in because he don't get enough assists.
Do you know what? Bernardo Silva is a quality player. I would never avoid that, but he bugs me so much. I think he's dirty. Proper dirty player, and it goes under the radar. He
annoyed me when they played Wolves away, and I don't watch them much, and that was just on in the pub that I was in. I saw the last 10 minutes of that game, and he fouled the keeper, didn't he? And they got a goal, and I think John Stones headed the winner in injury time, and that was Bernardo Silva who was in front of the keeper, and they were talking about it being offside, and that's all they looked at, the offside line, and said no, he wasn't offside, or he wasn't interfering with the keeper. He wasn't in an offside position, but he wasn't interfering with the keeper. But that was only when the ball was headed. He was actually jostling the keeper before the corner came over. No way in the world should that have been a goal. And that was Bernardo Silva. But he plays for the team. He don't play for himself.
I mean, he's just, every time I watch him, he should get yellows and doesn't get yellows and dirty fouling all over the shop. He frustrates me.
I think that might be a bit harsh, love. But I don't watch him a lot.
If he played for me, though, I'd probably absolutely love him. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of them. So I can understand it's part of a player's game, but he doesn't frustrate me as a non-Man City fan. Karen Mater says, hi Beth, one question for Ricky. I want to know his opinion on Rashford. I may be completely off here, but I think he's the one leaking information and needs to go. I mean, If you don't know,
you suggest that? You can't suggest that. She's just saying. Who said that, by the way?
Karen Mater.
Karen, how would you
that.
know? What makes you think that he'd be the one? I've got no idea who it could be. Why would you suggest that you think it might be him?
The one thing I would say, if you don't know Ricky's opinion on Rashford by now, where have you been?
Yeah.
You don't rate him, do you?
No.
To put it bluntly.
Never have.
Never has. You can go back over the years.
Not quite never. Look, I always want all United players to be absolutely fantastic. And when he first burst on the scene, not the couple of goals that he scored in the first couple of games, but in the first few games, I remember him scoring a fantastic goal against City at the Etihad. I remember him scoring a fantastic goal away at West Ham in the Cup. I think it was a Cup replay, if memory serves. And I thought we had a player on our hands, but it really didn't last long for me at all. It lasted months rather than years.
One thing I would say on the leak situation is everyone's going to have their own interpretations and their own theories. Nobody 100% knows. So you can't just say, it's this person. You can think it, and you're entitled to your opinion. But Manchester United have been clear that they are dealing with that in-house. I think you can't read too much into things. Is that a potential reason why he's not in the squad? I don't know. But I don't know I genuinely do not have a clue who is leaking the team. I have my own theories, but I do not have a clue who's leaking the team, and everyone can have their own theories, but United said they're dealing with it in-house, so this is where we're at right now. I've got some information coming in, let me just bring it to you guys. So, Manchester United's starting 11 is the one that was leaked. It is that starting 11, wow. United need to get forward.
So we knew that 24 hours in advance.
The one thing I would say is I'm getting absolutely torn to shreds on Twitter because I tweeted something out earlier, but I don't regret tweeting it out. And I'm not going to say the full thing, even though people want me to, because I don't want to put anything negative out there before the game, and plus it's not my place to do so. But honestly, certain things that go on behind the scenes, like the club needs. Under Amorim, I have confidence it will happen, but we really need to get a hold of certain situations and create a stricter environment, in my opinion, a professional environment behind the scenes, because how that team is being leaked that early, it's ridiculous. It doesn't happen at any other top club. I understand it's Manchester United. I understand, when things get leaked, it's more likely to go public because it's huge and the clicks you can get are huge. But that many hours in advance, it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening. And Man United have said they're dealing with it behind the scenes, and hopefully it does get dealt with. But Ruben Amorim, what he must be thinking? He must be thinking, as a manager, how frustrated would you be?
Extremely.
You'd be and you'd feel let down as well. And you don't know who it is. It might not even be a player. It might not even be a player. But who's got the lineup? The thing is, for me, who's got the lineup that early? That
coaching staff.
That isn't a player. It's only the coaching staff. It's all new coaching staff. All Ten Hag's coaching staff aren't there anymore. It's all Amorim's coaching staff. Why would coaching staff put their jobs at jeopardy?
It's got to be
leaking stuff like that. It has to be a player, in my opinion. Don't know who it is though. And I will say, you can't just say it's someone when you don't have 100% evidence. But it's frustrating. It's 100% frustrating. I mean, there's some more news coming out that I'm being told about. Let me just have a quick look here. And, okay, so not only Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho is not in the squad either. Both Marcus Rashford and Alejandro Garnacho are not in Manchester United's squad at all. Wow. Ruben Amorim will be asked about this. You can't say they're both injured, can you?
No. And they've both been starting as 10s for him in his very first few games. I won't say in all the games, and I won't even say in his first game, but certainly in the early games, they were both getting starts as a 10, weren't they? And none of them suit it.
Do you think, and again, I'm not saying anything 100% definite here, I'm just a fan like you are, do you think it's odd that Manchester United have said they're dealing with the leakers in-house, they're being dealt with, and they've found out who it is this week? I don't know if they've actually said that, but that's the rumour. And Rashford and Garnacho both aren't in the squad. I'm not saying it's them, but do you think it's an odd coincidence potentially?
It is an odd coincidence, but at the same time...
or do you think it's purely based off form?
That's exactly what I was going to say. They've both been poor for me in that role. Both been poor. Rashford in particular, but you know, Garnacho's a fan's favourite, and I really don't get it. I don't get it. It brings me back to me. Bruno gets loads of assists and Bernardo Silva hardly gets any. I'd have Bernardo Silva every day of the week. Now, the fans love Garnacho because he's scoring a few goals. He's not playing well enough. He's not playing well enough. Simple as that for me.
Well, Ricky's had his say. I mean, one thing I will say, if Garnacho and Rashford are not part of the squad, not even on the bench, whatever the reason is, whether it's because they've not been playing well, whether it's something to do behind the scenes, we don't know. It's ruthless from Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, ruthless.
Absolutely ruthless. And I think it's showing from him there's no messing about.
Yeah, so they're not in the squad. Have we actually got the bench then now?
Not quite.
Not yet, no.
That's been leaked early doors. And also, Fabrizio Romano's reporting it now as well. 100% Garnacho and Rashford are not in the squad. Am I naive to think it could be an injury potentially? Or is it a statement from Amorim?
I suppose one of them could be injured. They're not both going to be injured just like that, are they?
Something's got to be going on. Something's got to be going on. Something's got to be going on. I mean, get your thoughts in. Wow, no Marcus Rashford and no Alejandro Garnacho. What do you make of that? Do you think it's the right call from Ruben Amorim? Jake M says, is it possible the leaker did it on purpose so they didn't have to play in one of our toughest games of the season? Not up for it, timing is sus. I highly doubt that. You shouldn't be in professional football if you can't go up for a Manchester derby.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what a privilege to be able to play in a game like that. Sirabar says, wow, actually shocked that Rashford and Garnacho are not in the squad. Only leave Joshua Zirkzee as an offensive sub. Don't forget Anthony.
Yeah.
He'll probably be used as well, or at least be on the bench. Goldio says, there is evidence... Oh, I'm not getting into that because we don't know how true it is. Suck says, Ricky, we need Matic to give us control.
Be handy. He would be handy. Loving Matic, still playing well. He's playing for Lyon, isn't he, at the moment? Still playing well, playing lots of games. I looked at the result during the week. He still played a full game.
YNGK says, so many things I do for 350 grand a week. J Dead says, plot twist, Goldbridge is the leaker. I mean, no one's giving Goldbridge the team that I know of, but, you know. Vinny Red 1, it's widely... I'm not getting into that because we don't know how true it is. I know it was a big rumour on Twitter about Garnacho potentially being the leak, but then there was a big rumour on Twitter the other day after the game. I opened up my phone, I just interviewed Bruno Fernandes, I was absolutely buzzing, and next thing you know, all of Twitter's saying that Garnacho's brother's leaking to the United stand. Absolutely, categorically not true. And there was so many people believing it. So do not believe everything you read on Twitter. That's one thing I would say. Please do not believe everything you read on Twitter, because I know there is rumours about Garnacho leaking it and his brother leaking it or whatever. If they are, they're not to us. That's one thing I would say. And I don't know. I've heard rumours about many players that could be leaking it. I've heard rumours from different people that at least four different players could be leaking it. So nobody actually knows.
No.
It's so easy to just make something up and post it.
Of course it is.
So yeah. Lake on the Moon says, how I'm not bringing that one up. Alfie Vac says, can we just say though, everything aside, I hope Rashford is okay mentally. 100%. I would always want that, and I always want every single Manchester United player to perform. And one thing I would say is that is one thing that after the Czech Republic game midweek, I genuinely did think, I hope he genuinely is okay, like mentally, because he just didn't look himself at all. But I mean, Ruben Amorim's obviously going to get asked about his omission and Garnacho's omission from the squad, so we'll just see what he says about it. Chris Beard, thank you for your super chat. And JDV says, I agree with everything that Ricky says about Bruno, Rashford, Garnacho, Casemiro. Onana needs to be sold. We need players that take care of the ball. And Karen says, one more question to Ricky. Once we find out who the leaker is, what should be the punishment? This is the last I'm going to be talking about leakers because I want to talk.
That's not for me to say. I really don't know. I suppose. I mean, what are they allowed to do? Fine him a week's wages? Fine him 2 weeks' wages might be the maximum. And I'd probably drop him from the squad for, I don't know, 3 or 4 games, yeah.
I'm sick of talking about leaks now. I'm sick of talking about it. The club will deal with it like they've said. The rest is just speculation. We've got the Man City starting 11 if you want that, Ricky. Let's talk about football.
Bernardo Silva playing.
He is, yeah.
Got no assists, has he?
He is. Ederson, Walker, Gvardiol, Diaz, Núñez, Gundogan, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Foden, Doku, Haaland.
Foden's playing, is he?
No Jack Grealish. Doku immediately worries me. When he's going at you, it's tough to defend against.
Yeah.
When he came on in that FA Cup final, I thought, God, if Pep would have brought him on early, we could have had an issue here.
Yeah.
He worries me. I think you can get at Gundogan at this moment in time. Walker's probably gettable at this moment in time due to his form, but the rest of the team's pretty good, isn't it? So they're good players.
They're all good players,
no matter what the form
is.
is.
Right hard game.
I mean, let's bring this in before the official team news comes in. By the way, my laptop is just blowing up right now with so many different messages and different notifications. But I did want to ask you, Ricky, if you were to do, and get in the chat your thought as well, if you were to do a combined 11 of City and United players, this current moment in time, based on form and who's available, should we go through it?
Well,
and the chat can get involved?
I'm not too au fait with all of City's players, because I don't watch them a lot, but the ones that I do know would probably get in the team. You know what I mean?
Goalkeeper-wise, you'd go with Ederson.
Yeah.
Even maybe
What are we doing? Are we picking a back four or a back five or a back three?
Let's just do a back four because it's easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
So right back would be...
Kyle Walker.
Not in form. Mazraoui. I'd go Mazraoui. In form, this is what I'd do. I'd go Mazraoui right back. I'd go my centre-backs as Diaz and De Ligt. And I'd go my left-back as Gvardiol.
Right.
My midfield three would be De Bruyne, Bruno, and probably Bernardo Silva. And your front three would be Haaland, Ahmad. Who else can you put in there?
Grealish isn't playing well enough, is he, at the minute? Or he's not playing often enough, but I think
Trying
he's
to think of City players off the top of my head based on that.
I don't think Foden's been playing a lot recently, has he? So if you're going off form, it's anyone's guess. Like I say, I don't know.
Oh, Ugarte. You could put Ugarte in the midfield and put Bernardo Silva in the front three.
Forward, yeah.
But then only having De Bruyne there as the only City midfielder doesn't sit right. Kovacic has been playing quite well.
Right.
You'd have to think about it. Get in the comments down below what you think. I'm trying to do it off the top of my head right now, so it's a tough one. So let me know in the comments down below what yours would be. Sirabar says man marking won't work on Doku. You've got a double up on him.
Doku, you didn't put in it, did you?
No, I didn't, but he could go in. Ali Jaber says, if Ricky says the sun rises from the west, I will trust him. He's always proven right in the end. Beth and Ricky, lovely chemistry. Thank you very much for that. That's what Hayden, my brother, was saying to me the other day. He said, Ricky's always proven right in the end. Are you not worried he's going to be proven right on Bruno? And I said, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it.
I did get a nice message on Instagram the other day from somebody who said, I wish I could remember his name, I can't remember, but somebody said to me, I hate to admit it, but you've been right all along. And I love it when I get them messages.
Kai says...
And it was about Bruno, by the way.
Is this the beginning of the end for Garnacho and Rashford? I mean, they've just been left out of the squad. It's not as if they've been, shipped out of the team. Yeah. I think I think in football you can come back from a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. I can't really comment on it until I hear what Amorim has to say. Because, you've got to wait and see what Amorim says on this.
If it is, you've got to wait and see what he says. And I'm not disrespecting the manager by saying this. I'm really not, because managers for many reasons often can't just say exactly what the truth is, and there's lots and lots of reasons for that. But whatever the reason is, it could potentially just be that they're not playing well enough. And if neither of them are in the squad because they're not playing well enough, I agree with the manager. They're not playing well enough, either of them. Simple as that.
Okay.
Can't wait to see what the bench is, by the way, to see if there's any room on the bench for either of them.
Me too. James Hoover says, wish we could get Sancho back. He fits this system. Sean Thornton says, I thought Dean Henderson was the leak. I remember when that was a rumour at the time. Mark Denity says, there isn't a plan B on the bench if things go badly. Ian Nichols says, mad that by January 4th, the day before Liverpool away, we could very easily be third bottom. We must start winning and fighting for every ball. Come on. Yeah, get a bit of positivity. You know, okay, 2 players have been left out of the squad, but, you know, you've got... It's not all about individuals, it's a team game. And would you have started either of them in your starting 11 anyway? I wouldn't have. So we've got a team there that can go to the Etihad and fight for it. And whatever the reasons they have been left out, see what Amorim says, you know, you want squad unity, you want a fighting spirit amongst the team. And if it's for a reason where there's, you know, something going on behind the scenes, there's maybe something that's, I don't know what it is, maybe he just doesn't fancy them. You know, Amorim's picked what he feels like his strongest squad, so we've just got to get behind the manager and back it. Ricky, what were you going to say?
I was going to give you a different angle on it. Have you still got it on the screen there? Somebody said there is no plan B on the bench. I think they're talking about like a good enough attacking player to bring on or whatever. You know, whether they said like there's no plan B. In other words, if it goes wrong, they said if it goes wrong. Now the thing with that is we're setting off, and as much as the manager might say it's the team that I've picked to try to win the game, I'm trying to explain something here. They are setting off to try and keep a clean sheet. But by keeping a clean sheet, that's your best opportunity to try and win the game. If you keep a clean sheet, you only need to score 1 goal. So even though he's trying to keep a clean sheet, it is his best attempt to win the game. Now then, you're saying if it goes wrong. If it goes wrong and we go one goal down, say within 20 minutes even, 1 goal down within 20 minutes, what a coach will say to people is do not change your game plan if you're a goal down. If you're 1 goal down, we still only need 1 goal to get a point out of it. So you don't suddenly start bombing forward or putting extra forwards on or anything like that. If you go a goal down, stick to the plan, keep working at it. Hopefully we get a chance to equalise. So what you know, they don't necessarily need a plan B as such because they don't want to have to use a plan B. And then if you happen to go 2-0 down, it's too late to use your plan B. Do you understand what I mean? You're not going to be unlikely to come back by putting an extra forward on side. They're probably going to score 2 or 3 more rather than us score. You know, you need that plan to work. Your first plan needs to work.
One thing I will quickly say is it's breaking news now coming out for people who thought it might be injury to Garnacho and Rashford. Breaking news from Samuel Luckhurst again, who got the lineup right and got the fact that Rashford was not in the squad right. Garnacho and Rashford both trained at Carrington this morning. Right.
So,
I mean...
Did squad train or just them two?
Just coming out that Garnacho and Rashford trained at Carrington this morning. I doubt the squad would be training before a game. Wouldn't happen. That never happens, really. I might be wrong, but I doubt that. I mean, it's just all... Can't wait to hear what Amorim has to say on it, because Goldbridge put in the chat before they must be injured because the bench is out now, Ricky. And when he seen the bench, he thought they must be injured because you would at least have them on the bench. And the bench is Bayindir, Yoro, Lindelof, Anthony, Casemiro, Ericsson, Mainoo, Malacia, Xerxes. So he was like, they must be injured because you'd at least have them on the bench. And I said, I don't think they both can be injured. It's too suspect, in my opinion. And then it's just come out breaking that Garnacho and Rashford did train at Carrington this morning. So everyone's just waiting to hear what Amorim has to say now. On that one. I mean, what do you think of the bench there, Ricky?
Very strong. And again, I'm not going back on myself here by talking about a plan B. I'm a great believer in hopefully only needing to use your bench if you get an injury. So you need a strong bench in case somebody gets injured. You need good defenders, good midfield players, and good forwards on the bench. We're a bit light up front. We always say we're light up front. For one of those 2 players to have got on the bench, there's only 1 player in that bench who they can compete with for me, and that's Anthony. Maybe Garnacho for Anthony, but I don't see room on that bench for Marcus Rashford. It's a strong bench. I really don't see room on it for him.
So even if Rashford there was nothing going on behind the scenes, you don't think he gets on that bench?
No, not for me. In front of who? I mean, don't forget, you need defenders and midfield players as well.
I'd have him over Xerxes.
No, I wouldn't. What as a sub number 9?
That's true.
Are you sure?
True, to be fair.
Are you sure?
True, to be fair. Maybe it's honestly.
You could say over Anthony, but you'd put Garnacho over Anthony, wouldn't you?
I'm thinking
there's no room for Rashford on that bench. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking Anthony. Yeah, you could put him.
Yeah, but Garnacho gets that place. Does he not?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So funnily enough, they're the two players that have been dropped, and yet they're competing with each other for one spot on the bench.
I mean, you could afford to maybe have Eriksen out there.
Who else have you
got?
Who else
Mainoo
have
and
you got?
Casemiro. Could afford for Eriksen to be dropped as well.
Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, you probably could.
Where's Amorim? Get that question asked to him ASAP, because I'd be interested to know. Ricky, I know you have your opinions, and honestly, I think a lot of it is genuinely. I respect it a lot, and I agree with a lot of the stuff you say. But if Garnacho and Rashford are 100% fit, they make that bench. I think.
Rashford. You don't understand how bad I think he is.
I think
he's awful.
I know, not under you, but under Amorim's thinking.
Yeah, right.
He would, I think. But wow.
Even when he comes on as a sub, he's terrible.
Wow. Wow. What do you rate that team? What do you rate that lineup out of 10, by the way, everyone? Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you rate that lineup out of 10? I mean, for me, I don't think I'd make a single change to that lineup, Ricky.
We've got Casemiro on the bench, haven't we, Eric? I might go Casemiro for Bruno, but just to appease you, I'll stick with it as it is.
Oh, thanks, Ricky. Thank you. We've got a lot of 7s and 8s coming in, a lot of 8s out of 10. What is the one thing you would change then? If you're giving it a 7, if you're giving it an 8 out of 10, how do you think that lineup could be better? I honestly really like that lineup. I'm going to be completely honest. Vinny Red 1 says, look forward to Mainoo or Xerxes coming in the left 10. Well, yeah, Mason Mount probably won't last a full game, so there is going to be subs that are going to be made. Dreezy Dem TV says Rash doesn't score. Xerxes has no ego, so he's better. I mean, Rashford has scored multiple goals against Manchester City. Let's not take that away from him, but this is the situation we are in right now. I mean, I've got some stats to bring in. I do think Kev was supposed to be joining us. I don't know if he still is. Can get any confirmation. Is Kev still joining us? Just confirming that. But I wanted to bring in some stats because Højlund and Haaland both start for either Manchester side today, Ricky. Højlund, what did you make of his cameo off the bench against Pilsen?
Yeah, good.
In the Europa League, he has 10 goals in 12 games. In the Europa League, in Europe, he has 10 goals in 12 games.
Right.
Not a bad return, that is it?
It's excellent in Europe, yeah.
He needs to bring it into the Premier League.
It'd be great if he could.
He really does need to bring it into the Premier League. But I wanted to compare both Højlund and Haaland before we went into this game. Sometimes we do play comparisons. And this is an interesting one. Both Højlund and Haaland rank low for passes received. Haaland's is in the bottom 1%. So Haaland's not receiving as many passes as he potentially once was as well for Manchester City. We know if you cut off the pass to Haaland, he does struggle in games. It's something Manchester United needs to do today. But Europe goals in 23-24, Højlund's got 10, Haaland's got 11.
Right.
So he's really keeping up with him in Europe. Obviously, we're in an...
That's not just this season, surely.
No, he's in 2023.
Oh, sorry.
And, you know, 2023 and 2024.
Yeah.
League goals, this is where it's different. So in Europe, Højlund and Haaland's got 11, Højlund's got 10, right? It's pretty even.
Yeah.
League goals, 40 for Haaland, 12 for Højlund. So he needs to bring it into the Prem. Højlund, again, I will say it like I said it with earlier on the show when we were having the Bruno discussion. Højlund is obviously not playing with as much service as Haaland in the Premier League and as with as good of players as Haaland is playing with. You've got to take that into consideration. Yeah. But this is one for you. Goal conversion rate.
Yeah. Chance conversion rate, are we talking really?
Yeah, chance conversion rate, goal conversion rate. Haaland's is 15%, right? Yeah. Guess what Højlund's is?
16%. Go on.
41%.
Wow.
So Højlund's scoring goals.
Yeah, from the chances that he gets.
41%, by the way, just so you know, is very, very, very good off the scale. And I've said this multiple times about Højlund. There's a lot he needs to learn and he's not the finished article. There's a lot he needs to learn. But I think one thing you struggle to teach is that ice-cold finish, you know, finding the back of the net, that clinical edge. He has got that clinical edge. He scores goals when he has the opportunity. So the other stuff you can work on. So it is promising when you look at it like that. Touches in the box per 90, Haaland with 7, Højlund with 3.76. So again, he's doubling his touches in the box. Needs to be getting in and around the box a little bit more. We know he needs to time his runs a little bit better, but also United aren't in the final third as much as City are.
Yeah,
City dominate the final third. Aerial dual win rate, 52% for Haaland, 32% for Højlund. So, that's something there. Højlund maybe needs to get up a little bit more. Passes received per 90, 16 for Haaland, 18 for Højlund. Højlund maybe dropping a little bit deeper than what Haaland is there. Carry distance per 90, 50 metres for Haaland, 88 metres for Højlund. So being asked to carry the ball a lot more. But I thought that was really interesting. Obviously, Haaland is like top tier, best in the world. Højlund's got a long way to go. But, I'm sure Højlund will be aspiring to be at that level at some point in his career. That's where you want to be at that level, so you want to compare him. And I think there's a lot of promising things about Højlund that we can take forward and be positive about, I think.
I think so, love. Yeah, he lets himself down a bit too much for me with his back to goal, but he seems to be working on it, improving. So fingers crossed. But he's got a lot of work to do. I don't think he's ever going to be a Haaland, to be fair.
Well, Haaland is literally a robot.
Yeah, he's elite level.
He can still be a top striker without being Haaland. Haaland is a robot, especially for his age. But I do think with Højlund, when you look at his conversion rate and the chances he's getting and what he's doing in Europe, I do think there's stuff there to say we have got a talent to work with and there's a lot of potential. And I do think he's shown that potential. And I think the stuff that he's lacking in areas that you can improve and with good coaching. But look, that is what I wanted to bring to the show. So get your thoughts in on that. We've got some super chats coming in. We'll read them out in a second. But I need to welcome Kevin to the show. Kev, can you hear us over there?
Loud and clear. Hopefully you can hear me as well. Happy Derby Day.
Happy Derby Day. You'll be over later, won't you, for the forum? But, sure. Kev, I don't know if you've opened your phone, but it's all going off. What do you make of the lineup and Rashford and Garnacho not being in the squad?
I am happy with the lineup when I've seen it. I mentioned in Vancam earlier, obviously, square pegs in round holes. I see good balance to this team, which I'm very, very happy about. I think defensively, maybe a while ago, if you mentioned Harry Maguire was starting, you might have a slight issue with that. But I think that this actual system. Go on, Beth.
Sorry, Kev. I'm so sorry, but I'm just going to have to come in with this because Ruben Amorim has spoken, and it might give you a little bit more to answer this question off. So Ruben Amorim to Sky when asked why Garnacho and Rashford were not involved. These are Ruben Amorim's words. I pay attention to everything. The way you eat, the way you put on your clothes, to go to a game, everything. I then make my evaluation and I then decide. There is a communication after the last training. They are all right. They had training this morning and I was there. They trained really well.
Wow.
Manager isn't messing about, is he, Kev?
That's worthy of a wow.
The way you put your clothes on, wow. That's all about.
Is in what you wear into the games and everything like that.
Means,
yeah. So Alex Ferguson asked that.
Yeah.
That's... I was going to touch on it and say, obviously, at this moment in time, obviously, you've confirmed that now, that we didn't know whether Garnacho and Rashford have been left out because they've got some kind of injury. But obviously, for Amorim to shut that down now and be so honest and say, well, he's more or less saying that they're not in the team on current form. And that's exactly, for me, how it should be. You've got somebody like Mason Mount who looks like he's chomping at the bit, wants to be in there. And I was listening to what Ricky was saying earlier. I keep saying this myself now. In this system, you are going to struggle to get a Rashford or Garnacho in because they're not a number 10. We've seen Rashford try and play number 9 at United. It's not going to happen. So unless they're going to play as these wing backs that are prepared to do the work going back, there isn't a place for them in this team. And it's not taken Amorim too long, really, in his United career to find out the players that he can count on. And this is a huge game today against Manchester City, two teams that are obviously not in the form that they want to be. But, yeah, to be leaving out two so-called star names and to come out with them comments now prior to kickoff, it's a bombshell, really. And it probably tells you more where a player like Marcus Rashford is, at this moment in his career at Manchester United.
Well, it's very interesting, Kev, because an article came out earlier this morning from the Telegraph from James Ducker, I think it was, talking about Marcus Rashford and why Manchester United want to sell him, and sources saying that they feel like they can speak to him and have a good conversation with him, but it goes in one ear, out the other. Maybe he doesn't take on board what, coaches are telling him, and that there's some worries about his off-field activities potentially. Garnacho's a big shock for me, because Ruben Amorim seemed to really like him. He was playing in his starting games, and he was playing in his strongest lineups in the starting games. Now to completely be out of the squad, it's interesting, but it shows Ruben Amorim it's a Manchester derby, and he knows what sort of news this is going to cause. But if he's not 100% on a player, you're not in. And it's a massive call. And even if this would have happened under previous managers, they would never come out with a comment like that. It would be, the not maybe not 100% fit, and there's no other news I can really tell you on it, or we're keeping it in house. We're not commenting on it. But he's literally come out there and said, I pay attention to everything. And I think that tells you everything you need to know, really. Yeah,
and the Ahmad one, Ahmad's the one that, for me, that's thrown the cat amongst the pigeons, because he's been playing that well. I think he showed up Rashford for sure, because at least he looks like he's bothered. He's going out there. He conducts himself well. I don't know. With Rashford, obviously there's been mention this week that it's the lifestyle or the off-field kind of lifestyle that United are looking at, and they don't like the way he's conducting himself. But this has been a long time in the making. There's only so long you can put so much trust in a player. I keep saying it's 18 months. It's nearly, you'd probably say it's 20 months, really, that United have had to deal with this. But obviously the other issue now is if you're looking to sell him, he's on mega money, and how do you get rid of him?
The one thing I will say, and I'll bring this to Ricky, and Kev get involved in the conversation as well, is Ten Hag got a lot of stick for how he dealt with the Sancho situation, the whole Sancho debacle. Do you think, one thing I will say is I think Ruben Amorim is probably better speaking publicly than what Erik Ten Hag is. And a lot is about not what you say, how you say it. But for the people that were frustrated with how Erik Ten Hag maybe dealt with the Sancho situation, I don't think people can say anything to Ruben Amorim now. This situation. Yeah, would you call it similar?
I'm not sure. When you say the situation, I think you're talking about when it actually came to a head, where Sancho refused to apologise. But to me, it goes a lot further back than that. So there's a big difference here for me. Sancho was being left out of the team. I'm sure that's where there was animosity right from months before the argument and him not apologising. So, or him being left out. He got left out against Arsenal, and he said he wasn't training well enough. Months before that, he was on the bench watching Rashford and watching Anthony, and Sancho's a top player, and he's sitting there frustrated watching those two players underperform week in, week out, and he can't get a game. Often not even getting 10 minutes off the bench, and he's better than those two players. Here's the difference. He's now leaving the players out, and they can't argue. They can't, Ahmad really is the player who's been taking their place, whether it's as a 10 or whether it's as a wide player, and Ahmad's miles better. So we've actually come full circle. The two players, well, I can't include Anthony in that really, and Garnacho was only just coming into the team, but certainly with Rashford was playing loads in front of Sancho, which is a joke. And now Rashford's behind Ahmad, so it's a slightly different situation. The players are being left out for better players than them, but Sancho was being left out for worse players than him, without any doubt. I don't want anybody to come back to me and say that he's not better than them. He's absolutely miles better than them.
One thing I will say is it's coming out now as well. Well, there's only 10 minutes of this show left, but there's so much information coming out. Plettigol has come out and said, so from Sky Germany, Marcus Rashford can leave Manchester United in winter, as already reported and confirmed, not in the squad against Man City again today. So there's obviously been a lot of news that Manchester United potentially will be looking to sell Rashford next year, Kev, but it's now been reported that if anyone even came in winter, Manchester United would be open to selling him then. Do you think there's been something happen maybe behind the scenes where it's like, you know what, it's best for both parties to go separate ways?
Oh, 100%. Either that, or we've actually finally stumbled on a great manager who, discipline-wise, like I say, it has not taken him long to figure out this player. We've said it so many times, a leopard never changes its spots. I don't see that with Rashford. There's an ego thing there. I don't think he wants to even try to get anywhere back to that season where he scored the 30 goals for United. So when you lose that motivation, for me, the doors, it's open for him now to leave Manchester United. But I think Amorim's doing a really good job of taking this task, and probably maybe he's tried to motivate him. We don't know behind the scenes. He's certainly given him that chance. He gave him the chance as the number 9 when we played against Ipswich. So he's had his chance. We don't see what goes on in training. We don't hear the half of it. So it just looks like that the only way that this can go now is a parting between Rashford and United. It's sad that it's come to this, but Amorim quickly has found the players that he can trust. And for me, that team that has been chosen for the Manchester derby today is a team that, maybe barring kind of Harry Maguire, is a team that on current performances and for what they're giving back to the manager, what he's asking them to do, they all deserve to be in that team today. And it's so refreshing, because under Eric Ten Hag, as you mentioned before, it never seemed to be that way. It seemed to be players on reputation or trying to get these names in. And this manager's come in and said, no, because he'll know as well that past managers, bigger names have been at this club that have failed, and he's going to have to do it his way. You cannot rely on these players that are going to consistently let you down. If you're not getting consistency from the players, then at the end of the day, it won't be all the players that leave. We've seen how it works. The buck stops with the manager. And it's refreshing that we've got a manager who's big enough to make the calls, and he's made a huge one. And so interesting and refreshing that he's even answered the stories about Garnacho and Rashford not being, in the squad today before the match has even kicked off. I think previous managers might have thought, we'll wait till later on, but he's just nipped it in the bud now, and he's saying it exactly how it is. Brilliant. We'll have to get him on the United stand. At least he says it how it is anyway. I love it, man.
Kev, I think...
I thought that was my job, Kev.
I was going to say...
Getting Ricky out of a job, Kev, eh?
Hey, Ricky, I was waiting for you to say, I've been saying Rashford's rubbish for years. He only just worked it out now.
I mean, honestly, it's so much drama before a Manchester derby, but the one thing you want from your manager, which is what we've had from Ruben Amorim, which is exactly what you've just said, Kev, is honesty. And he's been that since he's came into the club, and long may it continue. Have we finally got a manager who's just not going to put up with anything and actually has full power and full backing? Because I think, obviously, with Eric Ten Hag, you'd like to think he had that, but I don't think he 100% did. Amorim is Ineos's man. He's their manager that they have picked. Yeah. I think he has the most power out of everybody now. Everybody, including anybody in the squad. And that's how it should be. So let's see what happens and how this develops. Rashford or Garnacho, this could be the final... I mean, I don't know the situation. They're both individual cases. There might be different reasons for each one, but Amorim's put it like that. But this might be, the kind of nail in the coffin that they need to be like, actually, I'm going to do this differently, I'm going to do that differently. I want to play for Manchester United. I want to be part of this team, this squad. This is like, when you have that wake-up call. It could be that. Or it could be the start of Ruben Amorim phasing certain players out. We'll just have to wait and see. Kev, the show has gone so quickly. I wish we could have you on for longer. But could you give us your score prediction? Because I know you need to get down to the studio to watch the game and be on the forum with us later.
I've gone, not as... I've seen Ricky's prediction before and I was like, oh, come on, Ricky. Bit of positivity on Derby Day, man. And Ricky goes with a 3-0 loss. I've gone 2-1 Manchester United.
Go on, Kev. Go on.
I can't back against my team on a day like this. I'm not having it. Sorry.
Kev, I love it. I love it nearly as much as I love the Cantona top in the background creeping through.
Are you having that? It's a beauty.
Love it.
I won't mind him playing in the prime Cantona playing in the number 10
That'd be
today.
Great. That'd be great.
Oh,
what we would do to bring him back. Kev, thank you so much.
At least the Etihad will... It's very rare that the Etihad is full. One Direction, what was it, Coldplay? And when Manchester United come to town...
Brilliant, Kev.
It's very rare that the Etihad's full, but United will be there today.
I went to see Bruce Springsteen there once. It was full then and all.
Oh, you filled it out. There's another one to answer the list. That's 4 events they filled it out for.
You could get Ricky a night with Rick the Red talking football and it'd fill it out more.
Chocker.
Anyway, look, Kev, thank you so much. Can't wait for the forum. Hopefully we're talking about a win and your prediction does come true.
Hopefully. Thank you very much for having me on, and I'll see you later.
Thank you so much, Kev. Love it. Love it. Honestly, the amount of stuff I had planned for this show. I'm sorry to Matt, who's done the stats that I wanted to bring in. We've just not got time.
I want to bring something in dead quick.
Go on.
What we mentioned before about room on the bench. When you look at your bench and you look at the players that you've got starting, we only play with one number 9, and we've got one number 9 on the bench. But we play with 2 10s. I know Garnacho's played as a 10, Rashford's played as a 10. They don't often, I know Rashford has occasionally, but we only need 1 9. We only play with 1 9, so we need 1 9 on the bench. But we play with 2 10s, and on the bench, we've got Eriksen that could play as a 10. We've got Mainoo that could play as a 10. We've got the striker, what's he called? Xerxes, he can play as a 10. And then in the 6 role, we play with 2 6s. So you need more than one substitute for those roles. And you've got Casemiro, you've got Eriksen, and you've got Mainoo. Now, there's no room when you look at it like that. Rashford really has been playing as a 10, and we've got enough 10s. Got enough 10s on the bench.
It's been put out there as well from the MEN, everybody, that it is not down to the online rumours about leaks that Garnacho is not in the squad. So Alejandro Garnacho's omission from today's squad is not down to online rumours
so he's been cleared.
And speculation regarding leaks. And that is obviously coming from a pretty good source there in the MEN, who did get a lot of things right today. So that's coming out from there, which is probably a brief from the club, you would suspect. I wanted to bring in this because I've seen this from Threadman Chazza on Twitter, and he couldn't have said it better myself, so I wanted to bring it in, but give him a bit of credit for it. I know you're speaking about how they're playing as the number 10s and how you think it's based off football and their quality, the way that they are playing. And I said I actually, I think they would at least be on the bench, and I don't think it's completely down to that. Ruben Amorim's quote, which we've already read out, we try to evaluate everything: training performance, game performance, engagement with teammates, pushing this is more. This is another quote. This is more from Ruben Amorim. So you've already had the other one about the way the way you put on your clothes, the way you eat, everything. He takes notice of everything. He's now said we try to evaluate everything: training, performance, game performance, engagement with teammates, pushing up the teammates. Everything is on the line when we analyse and try to choose the players. So that is my selection. Simple. Wow. That's even more, not only training performance and game performance, engagement with teammates, pushing up your teammates, leadership. He's spoken about. And Threadman Chazza has quoted this, and he says, love this from Ruben: build an environment and culture in which players can thrive. The players who don't set the right standards don't get picked. Love this. And it is obviously not just linked to the form, it is about attitude on and off the pitch. Neither Garnacho or Rashford have been playing well enough for a long time. I agree with that. Granted, there are different stages of their careers, but neither of them deserve a place in the starting 11 based on form. But Amorim's quote seemed to highlight the behavioural issues of both players. Interesting. So, Ricky, a bit of a...
Very interesting.
Bit of a talk from Ruben Amorim there, speaking about engagement, and I don't know if it's anything linked to when Garnacho liked that tweet about Lisandro Martinez a couple of weeks ago, but he said it was an accident. I don't know what it is, but that is the last of Ruben Amorim's quotes there coming in. I'm sure there'll be more, and to discuss that with you will be Mark Goldbridge, because he's going live now for his watch along. I'll give my score prediction. I was going to go with 1-1. I'm changing it to 2-1 Manchester United. Let's have it. Ricky, what are you going with?
Well, this morning when you asked me, I had no idea what the team might be. No idea whatsoever. And I thought Rashford might start. I thought Garnacho might start, maybe both of them. And I went with a 3-0 Man City. I'm now going to go with a 1-1 draw.
You're going with a 1-1 draw?
Now that I've seen the team.
So you're switching to what my original, and I'm copying
You're going
Kev.
even more positive.
Going even more positive. Right, go and infiltrate Goldbridge's chat. What should they infiltrate with?
Rick's right.
Rick is right. No, I'm not having that.
Yeah, whatever she says, go with Rick's
We're
right.
having, right, okay, either Rick's right or Beth's right. Whichever you think, go in Goldbridge's chat with that, or just come on United, whatever you want to do. But thanks everyone for watching. Thanks Kev for joining us. I really do hope we're bringing a positive fan forum later on this afternoon.
So do I.
Last words, Ricky?
Come on United.
Let's go.